What if a room could be a teacher? I know, it's a fascinating idea. And today, we're going to dive deep and unpack exactly how it works, all through the Montessori principle of the prepared environment.
Okay, to really get this, I want you to just start by imagining something with me. Picture yourself walking into a room that doesn't just feel like a space you're in, but it feels, well, alive. You can almost feel it, right? Sunlight is just streaming in, hitting these simple wooden shelves. And on those shelves, you don't see a jumble of plastic toys, but these beautiful, carefully chosen materials that just beg you to pick them up. There are plants, maybe some art, everything feels intentional. Now, here's what's so interesting about this room: the vibe it gives off. There's a clear sense of order, for sure, but it doesn't feel strict. It actually feels freeing. It's incredibly calm, but at the same time, it's buzzing with this quiet, focused energy. So how is that even possible?
Well, that brings us to this core idea in Montessori philosophy. You see, in this model, you have the child and you have the adult guide, but there's a third and equally important educator in the room: the environment itself.
And that's what's known as the prepared environment. This is so much more than just interior design. It's really a philosophy where every single thing in that room, from the height of the shelves to the materials on them, is deliberately placed there to help a child build concentration, become more independent, and find real joy in the process of learning. You know, Maria Montessori herself said it best. The goal is to create a space that's just so rich with interesting things that it naturally invites a child to explore and learn on their own terms. And that's the key word right there. The environment doesn't command, it invites. Okay, but how in the world do you create a space that invites learning without it just turning into total chaos? Well, it all comes down to this really crucial balancing act called freedom within limits.
This is where a lot of people get Montessori wrong. They either think it's a total free-for-all or that it's surprisingly strict. The truth is, it's all about finding that perfect harmony. If you have too much adult control, you just end up stifling a child's natural curiosity. But if you have complete unchecked freedom, you just get chaos, and no real learning can happen. The prepared environment is all about finding that sweet spot right in the middle. And that balance, it's not an accident. It's actually engineered through 6 key design principles. This is basically the blueprint for building that third teacher. So let's walk through this blueprint real quick. First, you've got freedom, the ability for a child to move around and choose their own work. Next, structure and order, because when everything has a specific place, it gives a child a sense of security and actually builds mental clarity. Third is beauty. A simple, uncluttered space is just calming to the mind. Fourth, you have a connection to nature, using real materials like wood and glass and metal. Fifth is the social element, often using mixed age groups where older kids can naturally mentor the younger ones. And finally, the intellectual piece, where the materials themselves are designed to be self-correcting and spark that next level of curiosity. So, if the environment is doing all this teaching, you might be asking, what's the adult even doing? Well, this is where the role completely shifts from being a traditional lecturer to something more like a quiet, observant guardian of the space. But what does that really look like day to day? How does an adult teach without constantly instructing? Let me paint you a picture. It's a simple, everyday scenario. A child just finished an activity with some counting beads, and, a few have been left scattered on the table. Now, the traditional impulse might be to say, hey, clean that up, right? But in this approach, the adult just waits. Later on, when the child has moved on to something else, the adult quietly and carefully puts the beads back in their proper container. They're modeling respect for the materials and for the space. And this is where the magic happens. The child sees this act of care, and over time, they start to imitate it. So the lesson of responsibility and order, it isn't delivered through a lecture. It's absorbed directly from the environment and the adult's respectful interaction with it. This is exactly why the adult is often described as a curator. Their job is to constantly watch what the children are drawn to and then rotate materials based on those interests. They're the ones who maintain that sense of calm and order, keeping the space inviting. And they make these small, thoughtful tweaks to make sure the environment keeps meeting the kids' changing needs. Now, this is such a powerful idea, and here's the best part. It is absolutely not just for classrooms. You can apply these principles to any space where you want to encourage a little more focus, independence, and calm. Just think about your own home or even your office. You can put this into practice by choosing simplicity over clutter.
Remember, order and beauty create calm. Try to use natural light and materials wherever you can to get that connection to nature. Here's a huge one. Make sure your tools are easy to get to and, just as important, easy to put away. That's how you create structure. And finally, you can be the curator of your own space just by modeling that same respect for your things.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. If it's true that our environment is a kind of silent teacher, always sending us these little messages about how to act and how to feel, what is your environment teaching you right now?